The east coast of the United States is currently in the grip of Winter Storm Jonas as it gears up for what is going to be a pretty tragic and possibly historic weekend of snowfall. Some people predicting more than 2 feet of snow in Washington, D.C., which hasn't had that in decades and decades and decades. Now, the storm has already crippled travel, stopping, we're going to give you all the numbers, but it's led to at least 6, some say as many as 8 fatalities already. And as we speak, communities up and down the coast are doing what they can to prepare for it. I mean, you're seeing there, look, as you go north on the East Coast, a lot of those communities are very used to snow, but not necessarily in the amount that they're going to be receiving it. And as I said, especially like D.C. and when you go a little bit south of there, like they're not used to this quantity of snow in a very short period of time.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, you know, I have one thing to say.
Jesus.
I have one thing to say. Where's Al Gore now? Where's Al Gore now? Why don't you put his book in a snowbank? Where's Al Gore?
This is an inconvenient truth for him.
Sorry, winter Al Gore.
Clearly global warming's not real.
Hoax made up by the Chinese, according to Donald Trump.
So, you know, Chris Christie's not even going to be in New Jersey for another snow blizzard.
He's not going to come back.
Right? Remember the first blizzard? He went to Disney World with his daughter because he promised her. And that certainly takes precedence over your state during an emergency to promise to keep your daughter going to Disney World on her Christmas vacation. And so now he's in New Hampshire because, well, when they said there was a blizzard.
I feel a little bit of sympathy for him on the last one.
When they said there was a blizzard coming, he said, I like mine with Oreos. That's the thing about Chris Christie.
Right.
I got you.
You got me. I'm not going to tell the jokes, but I will still laugh at them.
Oh, poor
He said, a blizzard's coming. I want a dilly bar.
God damn it. Okay, I hadn't prepared for that joke, but the East Coast is preparing. Public schools were closed all day today. The Metro, specifically in D.C., will stop operating at 11 p.m., and outreach workers will try to find shelter for people who would otherwise sleep outside. So, as I said, the storm has killed at least 6 people, including 3 in North Carolina, who died in tragic accidents on icy roads. There have been 928 reported crashes just from last night into today. And as I alluded to earlier, over 6,000 flights have already been canceled. Wow. People are predicting $1 billion plus in damage from this blizzard. And so for D.C., where it's expected that there will be 18 to 24, although there's a lot of uncertainty, inches of snow, that would be the second largest storm that they had since 1922 when they had 28 inches. So that is history in the making, but not necessarily the sort of history that we want.
No, hope everybody's staying safe out there. The only thing I kept thinking of when we were talking about the storm was the cover of the New York Post, but it just seems bad to insert it now.
What was the cover?
Where they said the winter will be whiter than the Oscars.
Oh my God!
It just seems terrible. But no, like the Chris Christie, if it comes in right after the Chris Christie blizzard.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, you seem very reasonable today.
Okay. Yeah. Compare. Okay.
So Jimmy, you joked earlier about the climate change. Well, yeah, about that as well. But more importantly, perhaps, for the future of humanity, climate change. And we already see the tweets from both regular people, from conservative media, like, oh yeah, tell me again about how bad climate change is.
You're kidding.
So when you say in December it's unseasonably hot, that's proof of climate change somehow.
That's why we started saying climate change instead of global warming, to make it simple, but it's not working.
So you find it frustrating?
Yeah, it's still not working. It's like, we'll have to come up with a new expression. Keep it simple. I think they said, like, what is it? Trump's speeches now, he's at like a 4th grade reading level.
Yes.
Maybe we can like reach out to him and see if he can like make this basic for us. How do we make this as clear as possible?
A little bit simpler to absorb, perhaps not even using words. Can we just use pictures of like storm clouds?
That's probably better.
Or just the top of like orange hair poking out of a snowdrift.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's probably better. Maybe it would work? No?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it would be that hard to understand. And I understand. The idea that we were first presenting, as if I was involved in it for decades as a climatologist, the idea of global warming, which is the predominant trend, made people think that if you can find a way in which that's not true, or a circumstance, geographic, temporal, where it's not true, then you've disproven the whole thing. But it is always about change. Right. And the change overall will lead to warming, and it will also lead to more extreme weather events, some of those being precipitation and sometimes winter precipitation.
And
that doesn't seem like that would be that complicated.
Yeah, and didn't New York go through, I think, their Christmas where there was like no snow?
Exactly.
And it's like climate change. That's what we call it.
Change.
Yeah. Abnormal weather.
So are there any climate change deniers that are non-religious? people?
Oh, certainly, yeah.
Oh, there are atheists who are science deniers too?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking particularly of some politicians who have been influenced through donations from energy companies who don't want to say, even energy companies who we've known for a long time, their internal memos going back decades have talked about climate change and how that can put pressure on them in the future.
What's so strange too is that conservatives actually used to be like huge proponents of climate change and talking about, and then much like with everything else, they just drifted into insanity on the subject.
Why do you think?
Probably because they found, much like with Trump, that it's just easy. Like Trump used to be a Democrat. I think they found that it's easier to manipulate people, by saying it's all a conspiracy and kind of rev that up. And then they're like, it's all a conspiracy, man. God controls the weather. So I think it just became more politically expedient to do it.
Well,
exactly.
Fox News is owned by a Saudi prince, correct?
No.
I don't know, maybe that has something to do with the fact that they don't want us to stop burning oil. Maybe that has something to do with the
message.
Maybe
that plays a role in some way.
That might have something to do with it. The Muslim. I wonder if he's one of the Muslim Trump wants to ban from the country.
I'm sure he has a pass. He probably gets a pass.
Yeah, probably, because he owns Fox News.
Final point I want to make about this, and I know, obviously, look, the storm is a problem here and now, right now. But of course, as we're not being affected directly by it, although I have a lot of family on the East Coast, we are thinking more about the long-term ramifications. No particular storm can be traced specifically to climate change. It's simply a trend, but that is what we're thinking about. And it seems like in terms of the unwillingness of the right to accept that it's happening and certainly to do anything about it, because some Republicans have finally said, look, it is happening. Some have even said it's happening and we're responsible, but many will not go that extra step to say we should do anything about it. And I think it's two things that are combining in the Republican Party. You have the religious side of the conservative movement that thinks that any minute now Jesus is coming back, so screw the future.
So why prep?
Exactly. Why do anything for 50 years from now when he could be here tomorrow? And then you combine that with the business side who want the short-term profits. I mean, the oil companies know that they're doing long-term damage to the country, but they're doing amazing things for their bottom line today.
Absolutely.
And so those two sides, the economic and the religious side, combine that it becomes an extremely short-sighted party. Liberals are worried about the long term. I would say, maybe I'm being politically biased here, and right now there's a lot of pressure on conservative politicians to only care about the here and now, which is odd for a party that talks all the time about the afterlife.